There we go. We're live. Greetings, everyone. Peace and blessings be unto you all. I am Minister Jamie Eatman, and I am indeed on the rise. And so are you as of this moment. I'd like to welcome you all. Those of you who have joined us before, I'm sure you're used to us beginning with prayer, and we will not disappoint. Let us pray. Most Holy Father, Lord, we most humbly come before you, giving you honor, glory, and praise. We thank you for all that you've done, all that you're doing, and all that you're going to do. We give you honor, glory, and praise. Have your will, have your way. We most humbly pray in the spirit of Christ. Amen. All right. I know there's a possibility that we got some feedback because but that should have taken care of it if we did. But welcome, 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 everyone. And welcome, my brother. How are you?
I am doing great, working on
All
some
right.
things, and then things are coming down the pipeline.
All right. Well, that's a good thing. You know, some people usually complain there's nothing coming down because they're waiting on something. But depending on what you're waiting for, I'm sure that's a good thing. And from what you just told me, sounds like it's a great thing.
Oh, I'm an '80s baby. I ain't got time to wait.
I got you. All right. Good, sir. Good, sir. All right. What your thoughts of tonight's uh, projected program? I don't know how much we'll get a chance to cover, but the significance of the narrative. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this. I feel like everyone can write their own story, and I believe in fate to a degree, but I do believe that you can write your own path to the final page.
Right. Okay. I like that. And when you mention that word narrative, and those of you who are joining us, even those who shall come later, feel free to put your information in the room or wherever you're at. If there's an area for comments, please enter it because it's very important as we move forward. Something's going to be said or done is going to make a difference in someone's life. So it may just not just be my brother and I. It might be something that you contribute as well. And people do go back and watch later. So as they watch later, as your comments come up, it might be that one thing that's going to make a difference in their life. So I encourage you all, please do share your comments. You know, when you think about this topic that we're dealing with today, I think it's a very interesting one because when you talk about the narrative and when you talk about the significance of the narrative, we really got two conversations going on. The narrative by itself is a conversation, but then when we get into the significance of it, and one the first thing we want to do is make sure we get on the same page and people kind of understand where we're operating from. So I'm going to ask you your definition, or I can give you mine. I'll actually give mine since I'm already speaking, and you can give me if you got anything different. When I think in terms of narrative, it's a matter of telling the story, how the story is told. When you think narrator, it's like being the author. You're the narrator. Authors write the book, narrators tell the story. So when we speak concerning the narrative, we are speaking concerning a story that has been told of what we have come to know, and that's when it becomes history or a fact, whether we choose to accept it or not. But at least that is given to us for our belief, objection, analysis, whatever we want to do with it. That's how we get it, and that's the narrative as I define it. How about yourself?
I definitely agree with that. I would like to add that the narrative to me is like I said before, is something that no one else should be telling your story. You should be able to create the narrative. So you should be able to live your life to create the story that they have to tell. Meaning, if you live your life like Christ, um, from what we read in the Bible, uh, Jesus never spoke about himself. It was someone else speaking about him. It was someone else account of him, and they were the narrator of what he was doing in life. So if you wanted to be good, just be a good person.
Right, right. I like that. I've heard that said compared to a person's eulogy. When we pass and they give this time for comments, and people I'm sure you've been to, if you've been to funerals, you've been where, sometimes people spring right up because they got so much to say. Other times they look around and see who's going to stand up because maybe there's so little to be said or so little positive to be said. But in any case, it's just like you're saying, that narrative, be it your eulogy or whatever it is, somebody is narrating it. And ideally, you want to be the narrator of it. And when you're the narrator of it, you're giving and telling that story. So as you live it, you kind of you give it as you live it. And when someone tells it, if they're telling it as it should be told, they're actually describing your life or the narrative that you gave them. Greetings, my sister Tracy. Peace and blessings be unto you. How are you doing? Glad to have you. It's a blessing to be in your presence. All right, my brother. If anything else on that before we jump right in?
No, go ahead.
Okay. This particular significance of the narrative is very significant because right now there are a lot of things going on. When you look at this election, it actually sheds some light on a lot of things. I I'll Before we get into the actual program, I was watching this program and this guy was criticizing. It was either Harris or Trump, but he said something that really kind of struck a nerve for me. He was addressing their lack of response to reparation. And when the comment came up, he was so bold to say on the end how he was opposed to it, and why would anyone pay reparation for something that dead people did? Can you imagine that? What do you think of that?
I mean, honestly, it's the narrative that Black people have had to endure literally since the day we were stolen and brought here and sold by other Africans and brought here. We have always been treated less than, and even today in 2024 is still happening. So even on the topic of reparations, it would be very hard to prove, how many people actually are descendants of slaves. Actually, it might not be proven. Might not be hard to prove because how well they documented slaves. But at the same time, um, they think they're giving us. They were like, oh well, we gave you this and we gave you that. Like, first of all, we're human beings. We shouldn't be given anything. We should just have it. And coming from, the Black perspective, I I I have endured being racially profiled. As soon as I do something good or I look nice, people think I don't even. I have been profiled by other Black people thinking that I shouldn't even have what I have just because I'm Black. I was driving my nice car through a Black neighborhood thinking people were gonna be like, man, good job. All right, they're good for you. But instead, they're like, you must have stole that. Really? And it's a sad narrative, but unfortunately it's the one that people keep telling, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. We need to start, telling people, uh, let's stop focusing on all this negative stuff. If you keep focusing on the negative stuff, you'll only see negative. Like, here's a prime example. If you ever just go to YouTube, it's a lot of platforms that does this. It's called the algorithm. And what you do is if you type in one time in your search bar something racist or something bad and you watch it on YouTube, every so often, even if you never watch it again, it's gonna pop in your feed. Like, you just be scrolling and you'll see something racist. And if you click on it, it's gonna start feeding you some more negativity. You keep on clicking on it, you're gonna keep getting negativity. Now, in YouTube world, it's very easy to break out of that algorithm. You just have to bypass it or say never show this to me again. And it would easily say, okay, we won't show it to you again. But if you apply that same algorithm to people, people love to bring up old stuff. They love to talk about, what people did in the past, and this, that, and the third. Now, when it comes to reparations, let's just be honest. Black slaves, well, pretty much all slaves in America, built the United States. They built the railways, they built the economy, they made rich people richer, and they made poor people poor. Just slaves have done it all. And where we are now, we should have been where we're at now 75 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. We should have been way, and people say, well, there's no more racism. If you say in today's day that there is no more racism, you the fool.
Mm-hmm. You have a point there, and I was wondering kind of where you was going to end up, because you said, like, when you say let's be real, and that's something that we have to be, because reality is reality. We're at a point now where if you look as the world might look, I'm one of those individuals, I try to look at it from all sides. That's why I can stand firmly on my decision, because if I have given you the benefit of the doubt and I really look very closely at what you said to me, I'd probably give you a better answer if I didn't know all the details. But when I know the details, that becomes a whole different story. I'm firmer. I'm less lenient. It just brings out a whole different side of me. But as I look at what has taken place, like you said, that where we are now, we should have been 75 years ago. We may, when you look at money, we might have wasted whatever we had. Some of us might have pawned our land if they had pawn shops then and still not have it. But that we don't know because it didn't occur. But when you look at a debt that's due, when a person has to look at you, can you imagine you're driving, you on the side of the road, you ran out of gas, but somebody just borrowed your last $25 and you gave them your $25. So now they're driving by and you got your flashes on and you see them drive by and they don't even stop to see if they can be of assistance. That sounds pretty cruel, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the United States and how it was built and its whole legacy and the role that slavery played within that, it's no different. But here we are today, the cares of the world, the issues that mean so much to people, they've gotten to a point where they don't look at things from a lens of justice. And sadly, there's a lot of people who, when they paint the picture or they give or tell the story, is not being told from a perspective that is clear, from a perspective that is real. So a lot of people don't see it as reality. They don't understand the reality of it. So when they speak, many times people will speak out of ignorance. And when they do, then ignorance begets ignorance. And before you know it, the whole subject matter gets lost in the conversation. A perfect example is going to be what happened I think in California. I saw something on reparation. And when I saw the word, I went and listened to this media that was presenting it. And they were saying that California, the people there had sent something to the governor for approval on reparations. But instead of defining reparations as I knew it, they tied it to people that were illegally crossing the border, getting reparations and benefits and all this. So immediately when I heard that, I knew by the way they was presenting that even we who might not know about reparations, but are probably do it and given a proper story, will probably stand behind it, are going to raise our voice against it because of the way it was presented. So when things like that happen, that's miseducation as I see it. So when people mishate, they do so with the intent of getting a particular results or a particular outcome. And we need to be careful of that because traditionally that is what has happened. If you look at the presidency that these two individuals are running for now, they are trying to see what pleases and tickles our ears the most, because that's the lie they're going to tell. They might
Hmm.
have good intentions of trying to do it, but they aren't looking at the reality of, can they, is it something should be promised? The whole intent is to get there. So to get there calls for a promise. So we live in a society here where the narrative becomes so very important. So as we get more into the program and get into this narrative conversation, we're going to touch on some very important aspects of this narrative issue. The significance of the narrative. That's our topic for today. So those who all are joining us, feel free to leave your comments in the room. We will, as you can see, we will gladly share them. I want to welcome you, Apostle or Crystal Harris, depending on which name you're wearing. But in any case, welcome. She says greetings, and she says they built the White House. They built the White
Exactly.
House. And and the truth be told, they were supposedly assisting, but my understanding is the architect or whoever it was actually left, plans and all, and there was one of us that just happened to be a part of what was going on, exposed to it, that was able to complete the project. So when we look at that, and again, that goes back to narrative, which one of those is correct? But the bottom line becomes the same. It was built and the person had a hand in it. But imagine a number of things historically that are told that individuals are left out of, and someone else has grabbed the complete history and credit for. Want to welcome you, Sister Joanne Ramirez, my dear friend. Welcome. Peace and blessings be unto you. Any additional comments before we move farther? And those of you in the room, feel free to leave your comments, especially you, Sister Joanne. Sister Joanne is very objective or subjective. Either way, she is full of information. You're welcome. Okay, if you have nothing else, Brother Greg, we're going to go ahead and get started. And we've already
All right.
started, but I mean into the actual meat of the questions that we have prepared for you all. So we're going to start off with a quote. There was two quotes. One is that history is a set of lies agreed upon. What do you think about that? Napoleon Bonaparte said that. What do you think?
That is absolutely true because what we're seeing right now with the president race right now is a bunch of lies told by both people, and people are literally fact checking them. And you got to believe, you just got to look up the truth for yourself because both people are, I mean, both of them are lying. All the president's candidates are lying right now. I don't know why they all need to lie. Even Cornell West, you think he would be the one person that don't lie, but he was caught. Someone fact checked him, and they said, "Oh, nope, that's not what's really you supposed to say." Like, for instance, when someone said, uh, uh, Kamala Harris, her one of her jobs as vice president is securing the border of the United States. And they said, well, and she said, well, on her campaign trail, she said, we need to secure our border. And last time I checked, if you don't do your job, you get fired. So she's had her job for 4 years and she's let in more immigrants than anyone else. And then on top of that, she was saying, "Oh, we need to secure our border." But then, when Donald Trump, not defending him, but when he was building that wall, Biden and Harris told them to stop building the wall. That would help secure our border. And immigrants are literally walking on top of the wall that Donald Trump was building in order to let people. And like I had to fact check this myself. I didn't believe it. And they showed pictures of the wall laying down on the ground. I was like, Jesus Lord. Now, my point being is, what is the mission of the devil? The devil's mission is to lie, cheat, kill, steal, and destroy. That
Mhm.
also applies with the truth. Now, Like I said, it seems like all these politicians align, and I really don't understand what is so bad that they can't tell the truth. Like, why don't you just say, here's the truth? And then when someone questions you, you say, here's a picture of the truth. Here's the stats of the truth. Why can't someone just say that? Like, why is it so hard to just say, here's the truth? Do with that information as whatever the information you want to do with it, just do with it. And I feel like they're writing it like we've always known as adults that politicians lie. We all knew this. We all know this. Politicians always lie. And I've never met personally a politician that has never lied. Not to say that they always lie, but I just never met one that doesn't lie.
Hmm.
And I've even shaken hands of a few of them. Uh, Prime example, even Barack Obama loved him, thought he was a great president, but he even snuck in some things without anybody looking. He secretly at night signed a draft bill, which means if we ever go to war and we need to have a draft, you, Mr. Jamie, will be a part of that draft because you served in the military before. And that bill says if you've ever served in the military at any point and they need to have a draft, everybody that has ever served in the military will be first in line. Don't matter
Hmm.
your age, don't matter your rank. If you've ever served in the military, you be the first one to go in the draft. And Obama signed that, and nobody knows about it because he signed that junk at 11 o'clock at night. And did nobody see it till the next day. And so my point is like everyone around us that's supposed to be significant is lying. And we just it's it's becoming very hard to see the truth. So that's
Right,
what we need to do. We need to start searching for the truth.
right. You know, my brother Edgar Eason, classmate, he says their laws are to protect and serve them. These same laws are to oppress and disenfranchise us, plain and simple. And
That's
there's some
exactly
truth to
right.
that. There's some truth to that. And this is what I want to say, even what you were saying as well, because the reality is this. There's a saying that a clock is right twice a day. So to say that they always lie, and you did come back and said that they don't always, but they have a tendency to lie. Character is not measured in time of comfort, but in time of adversity. And this running for
Exactly.
office is something that they are both trying to do. So this is the adversity for both. So the fact that they are lying, we should really be troubled because our future is dependent upon the leadership that you are referring to. And I'll give you an example. When you say that you liked Obama, now you knew the little fact that you just said about he signed that at midnight, but you preferenced that with you like Obama. So we need to get to the point where we are more critical of our leaders. Like now, the thought of voting for Harris because she's black. You know, if we're going to talk about moving forward and we're
Hmm.
going to talk about progress, we got to bring something more to the table, or she has to bring something more to the table than being black. I'm saying that because this issue with the election is one thing, but if we'll do it for an election, we'll overlook some things in our community. And if we're ever going to get to the point where we can rise above life situation and circumstances, the first thing we must do is must be able to truly look at where we are before we can even think about proceeding.
Hmm.
You know, it's like a map. You just can't get a map and start moving. You got to find where north is, align the north's part of the map with the north, and then you can actually look at what you're seeing. But otherwise, you can assume and be misoriented, and you can continue with the ignorance that we've been dealing with all along. But if we're looking for a change, if we're looking to make a change, do something different, one, we need to not have as much confidence or trust in the so-called people we elect into leadership. We need to see them as being more accountable than responsible. We know the responsibility that comes along with their position, but we don't know the accountability that they should be held to. When we look at Dr. Martin Luther King, civil rights, we look at that. We know about, being hosed down with the water. We know about all those things that we say in our mind. Ain't no way in hell I do that. But if you look at in reality the things that they oppose, the thing that they would not sit down for, those are the things that we're sitting down. We're having coffee, as you say. We're going up shaking hands. We're glad to be in their presence. We feel like if they got the election because we elected them, they're in a position to do that, and we'll just make up for it next year. That's not the way it should be. And until we get an agenda, we're going to keep getting that same crap. That narrative is going to go unchanged until somebody becomes attentive to it and set out to make a difference or do something different with it. Brother Brown just came in the room. Greetings, Brother Brown. Brother Brown says, if our true history was told, it would wreck the economy of the world. Religion, history, and science would collapse. Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying, Brother Brown, but I look at it this way. With all the knowledge we have and all the things that we've proven, it wouldn't collapse. It would probably correct, and we'd rectify a lot of the things that we've done in error. I listened to a brother Umar. His comment was that if the only people that can rule the world in peace is Black people, he was going looking at the things in the past. He looked at everybody's history and how they actually came in based on the fact that we were a peaceful people. And he was looking at it based on that. But where we are today, in order to prove or disprove statements like that, we got to get a mindset where we can rise to a position where we can at least see ourselves as being empowered or impact the powers that be. And when we get ready to do that, or we put ourselves in that position, we're still in a position to make change, whether we are so-called leadership or not. A person there's a thing that's called responsibility and accountability. A person doesn't have to be upfront to exercise the responsibility to make sure it happens. If something goes wrong, that person that's accountable is accountable. But there's so much more that we could do than we are doing. And there's so much more that we should be demanding of those individuals that are supposedly doing that they are not doing. But hopefully after this election is done, if we can keep conversation like this and we can actually start talking about changing our mindset, rising above situations and circumstances with the way things are changing technology-wise, maybe we can look at doing that. Maybe we keep that same focus that we have now. All this pushing out people, trying to get them to go out and vote and all that. Maybe some of these same people, instead of sitting down, they'll still keep pushing. They'll still keep driving in the direction towards something purposeful. I want to thank my brother Edgar for joining, and Brother Brown, thank you for joining us as well. All right, any comments or anything additional, Brother Gregory?
I believe the first thing that we people, humans, have to the first step of moving forward in a positive direction is stop being racist, whether it's for the good or for the bad. We have to stop being racist. And some people will say, "Well, I'm not racist," and then Dr. Umar, he pointed this out to me, and it made perfect sense. He said, how many people voted for Obama just because he was Black? And a lot of people would say, yeah, I vote for Obama just because he's Black. I want to see a Black man become president. And he said, even though it's a positive, you think it's a positive thing, that is in itself racist. You didn't vote for the man because he's a good person, a good candidate. You voted for him because he was Black. So even if it's a good, we want to see our Black people do good. Dr. King said it best. You should be judged on the character of who you are as a person.
Hmm.
So, first thing, even though, people will tell you all day, oh, I'm all for black people. I'm all for black people. You should be all for just people, good people across the board. No matter if they're Asian, black, European, Brazilian, whatever. If they're a good person, you should support. You should be all for good people. And I love us black people, but at the same time, he wasn't wrong. He is a very outspoken pro-black person, but he will tell you that if you are pro-black, you are slightly in a positive way. Don't matter if it's positive or negative. You are inherently being racist because you would pick a black person before you pick any other race. And if you switch the colors around and say, "Oh, I would pick a white person before any other race," all of a sudden it's now called racism. So you got to think about it that way. If you just say, "You know what, I'm gonna pick the best candidate," then it's different. Then you're saying I'm picking the best person based off of the content of their character, like Dr. King told us to do. To That's how you should be picking people, not on like there's a joke that always says, I forgot who said it, but I think it was Eddie Griffin. He said, there is plenty other reasons to hate a person aside from their skin color, but the fact that um, we have been persecuted for so long, and we're still being persecuted, that it's very hard to just pick the best person when you see there's two people and one is black and one is some other color. It's very hard to not pick black, but at the same time, we all saw Herschel Walker run for senator, and I don't know that many people that voted for Herschel Walker. So my point is, in that situation, it was a content of character, and we have to start looking at people in that aspect. Like, who are they going to be good people for me? Not good race, not good. We have to stop. We have to let all this racism go.
Hmm. What you're saying. There's some truth to it, and that's one of the things I usually talk about is community. How large is your community? Some people will tell you what's the song, sweep around your own front door and let me sweep around mine, or however it goes.
Yeah.
In my house, I'm the head of my household. When I go to your house, I'm going to show you respect. There's a lot of things there that we look at. How far do we take this, or how far do we take that? But if we think about words like truth, words like righteousness, words like justice, these words actually don't have race, they don't have color. But when you look at those that are unjust, then it becomes an issue of not so much race, but character. There are people that are in those gray areas. The Bible just to show you about truth and lie, for example. The Bible says be hot or cold, which means everything in the middle, somewhere you think at least anything 55 or more is on the other side, anything 55 or left is on the other. But it doesn't do that. It just says that truth is truth, lie is lie, hot is hot, cold is cold, and anything in between isn't one of the other two. So when we live in a world like we're in today, if we don't stand for justice, if we're not standing for righteousness, if we're not honoring the truth, we're part of the problem as opposed to the part of the solution. Because there comes a
Hmm.
point where if I'm in a position to give out eggs and somebody comes through that I don't think deserves the eggs, or these eggs are set aside for this person or whatever, that person has four eggs, for containers of eggs under their arm, but they're in my line asking for eggs. I can either give them eggs because I'm there to give out eggs, or I can look at, no, that's not just. It's like when you look at civil rights, if you're going to go against the law of the land, there has to be something greater than that law that's at work. And that's where truth, justice, comes into play. When we can operate on that level, then we rise above the thought of race. When you look at Dr. King started out and his issue was fighting for us as Black people. But as he went on, the fight that he was fighting, because it was such a righteous fight, it took him beyond just Black people to what was righteous. Malcolm X was the same way. And if we are intentional and deliberate in what we're doing, it'll be the same way for us. So those things we set out to do, if we'll set out to do them correctly or righteously, is that there's a saying that our gifts will make room for us. Every people or every generation has somebody that comes along with those gifts. And those gifts are still making room for people. So if we just know what we are about and be about the appropriate business, which isn't our business, it isn't the business of Black people, it's the business of righteousness, it's the business of justice. But it's kind of, you have to be careful not to get lost, as they say, in the sauce. Because if I'm standing up and I'm speaking now on this platform, I say a lot of things about us as Black people. I'm saying them because I'm encouraging the downtrodden. I'm encouraging those who I know need a word of encouragement, but I also correct those who need a word of correction. So if people were to say that that man is racist, I heard him say this, all I could say was, yes, you did hear me say that. And because I said that, I would actually say it again. Put in proper context, what most people call racist may not be as racist as they think it is. And having said all that, I'll use Trump as an example. Or better yet, a better example would be Candace Owens. A lot of Black people like to attack her, but when you listen to what she's saying, she and Dr. Umar are very similar. Umar's Pan-Africanist, and he goes forward, and people would think this man must just hate white people. He's so very outspoken. And Candace Owens is the same way. She does it from a position where people associate her with being a Republican, so they miss and dismiss some of the things that she say. But that's why we need to be listening. We need to be listening for truth. We need to be looking for justice. We need to be being righteous. And if we are doing those things, we'll get behind the right things. And when people see us doing that and desiring that, they'll deliver that. But why should they give us that when we busy asking to vote for someone just because they're Black? When we close our eyes to all the ignorance that's going on around us and ask to do something because it's Black. This whole election in a roundabout way has polarized racism, in my opinion, worse than I've ever seen it. You know, most people used to be snakes. They would actually hide, and you could hear them rattle every now and then. But now it's like the wolves, the foxes, the snakes, they're all coming out. And it's sad to say we are welcoming them at the mindset and everything that's going on in this season now. There's a lot of things that are going on, and we need to be careful. I want to welcome my sister Sarah. Peace and blessings be unto you. My brother Brown just stated in Alabama, there's not one Black person elected statewide. Voting is sadly racially polarized nationwide. A racist Supreme Court appointed by Trump is more dangerous than the presidency. Okay, Brother Brown, if you look at what you said, you just said Alabama. And if you're going to say Alabama has a problem, but you just dismissed that and you went on to Trump. The serenity prayer says, God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Because you're in Alabama, there's some things that you may not be able to do in other states. But it says, give me the courage to change the things I can. Which means if you're in Alabama, you have an opportunity to address some of those things in Alabama. So we just need to get to the point where we are fighting the right battles. I have this philosophy concerning a real battle and a forward battle. Politicians are individuals that fight the forward battle. We are individuals to fight the real battle. We work at the grassroots level, changing our communities. Those same communities are the communities that march. that came out for the marches when they had leadership with the right mindset that was standing for a cause that they got behind and they can get behind wholeheartedly because it benefited them. When truth and justice is on your side, people will live and die for something. But when you are asking them to oppose those things, there are some that will get with you because they know you. There's some that will get with you because they are the same race as you. But there are some that will tell you that you're a part of the problem as opposed to a part of the solution. And we need to be able to speak with each other in that manner. If we need correcting, let us correct each other. If we need
Right.
educating, let us educate each other. Because at the end of the day, when we start moving forward, as you said, Brother Gregory, we're going to be judged by the content of our character, and there's going to be a narrative because somebody's going to tell what we have done, whether they lie on us or not. There's going to be something said about you. And when they say that something that they're going to say, this is the time when you determine what that something's going to be.
Right.
If you remember Dr. King, he said, don't tell them that I have a doctorate degree. Don't tell them I have all these awards. Don't tell them I have a Nobel Peace Prize. He broke it down and he said the one thing that if we did it, if we could get our neighborhoods to do it, if we could get politicians to do it, this world would change overnight. He said, just tell them I tried to love somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes a difference, that love. Brother Edgar says, our rise or any upward mobility as a collective group of people would mean their demise. They are threatened by that idea. That's the primary focus of their agenda of oppression. I agree with that to a degree, Brother Edgar, because just like we're having this conversation in this room, you notice how small the numbers is. Your people will come in and they'll go out. There's some people that aren't ready for this type of conversation. And the same way is that way with Black people. It's that same way with white people. When you look at the civil rights and the marches that was done, until it was brought to them, until justice stood up, until
Mm-hmm.
justice took to the streets, until truth found something or instilled or rose up enough inside of us that we were willing to die for some things, we didn't get anything that we got until we did all of that. And when we did all of that, if you look at the changes that occurred in this world, when we talk about their how threatened they are, you look at what they gave, which is an example of what the righteousness of God can bring about. If you look at a people that came up from servitude, a people that came up and took a prominent place in this United States, that's God. And if he did it once, it can be done again. Now that we are at a point now, it's been shown that it can be done. But the question doesn't become, will they allow us to do it? It doesn't even become, do they want us to do it? It really becomes, are we willing to do it? And do we want more than we have? And what it costs them, so be it. Righteousness, when when it flows like a river, when it flows down like a mighty stream, think about what water and river does. Everything that's in is a path that's not supposed to be, or that maybe was, it's not going to stay. It refashions, it reshapes, it reestablishes. And that's what's going on right now. I can honestly tell you all there's a lot that's going on in the world today. Some of it we see, some of it we don't. Some of it we are part of, some of it we're not. But whatever it is that God has given us to do, that little piece there, as I said earlier, that serenity prayer. God
Mm-hmm.
granted serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And everybody's prayer might be the same, but it's not going to impact us all the same, because some of us have the ability to bring about change where others cannot. And when we start thinking like that, operating like that, there ain't nothing in this world that can defeat us. If God be for us, who in the hell can be against us? Enough said. All right, my brother. Thank you, Brother Edgar, for that. All right, Brother
Yeah.
Gregory, any additional comments before we move forward?
Yeah. What we also have to remember is that there are more than two candidates on the ballot. There's actually, I want to say it's like 10. But my point being, it's not just two options. And don't let anybody guilt trip you into racism. Like the former President Obama said, uh, the brothers are not voting for Harris because they must not be black. Like I'm paraphrasing. He didn't directly quote say that, but don't let anybody guilt you into racism. Like I said before, we gotta stop this racism stuff. Like whether you think it's good or bad, like we have to stop. Like we have to live up to what Dr. King's dream is. We have to stop both ways. Like if someone says you're not black enough for because you do this, that, and the third, you should automatically say in your head, "Oh, they must be racist." Because last time I checked, um, it doesn't matter what race you are if you want to run for president. It does not matter. Matter of fact, we got several candidates on the ballot that are black, but it does not matter whether you black, white, yellow, or brown. You could run for president as long as you get support and get your name on the ballot. And like if we stop this racism stuff, like you have to lead by example. Like um, the Bible says, we should live to be Christ-like. Like that's the way we should live. And um, I've I've never read the Bible cover to cover, back to back, like just straight through. But I've read passages and I read enough of the Bible to know that Jesus wasn't racist. Now he would say some things about different groups of people, but he was referring to sinners and people of God. So children of God and sinners. Those are pretty much the only two groups of people he talked about. And so, that's how we should start thinking. We should think, how can I be more like Christ? Um, if someone says, "Well, you're not black because you voted for Trump," well, I'm black. I'm. It doesn't matter what color I am. I'm a human being, and I voted for the best person that I thought was, for the candidacy. I'm not telling you to vote for whoever, but what I am saying is, uh, let's live up to Dr. King's image. Let's vote for the best person for the content of their character,
Right.
or in this case, is whoever's lies less. But if we walk by faith and not by sight, we would get a lot more done.
Right. Brother Brown typed in the room, he says, "How do you stop racism when we didn't start it?"
Well, I think I just spoke on that.
Right.
Don't succumb to it. Just live more Christ-like.
Right. That's a good question, Brother Brown. But one of the things that we have to really come to realize, we have leaders like Dr. King, and I don't think there's anyone in here that haven't referenced him. But the reality becomes this: Dr. King was not the yardstick. He just put it before us. And the fact that he put it before us is good. But the same God that was with Dr. King is still with us.
Hmm.
The same entitlements that Dr. King saw and believed in because of the God he served are the same entitlements that we should see and believe in because of the God we serve. One of the biggest things that we as a people have to guard against is that we don't, as they say, I think the word is subvert justice. In other words, we don't want to become, and I won't say racist, because whether you're in power and racist or you are oppressed and racist, you still racist. I don't think racist is the word that you all are so concerned with. Racist is one of those things where you just fail to love yet. So that love has not conquered your hate, your despise, be it of yourself, your people. There are some people that hate black people that are black.
Mhm.
They can't help it because they live in a society where they have been taught certain things. And until love
Mhm.
heals that, that is going to be there. But there comes a point where we realize that we're in a war. There's a battle that's constant. And not only is that us with us battling externally, we're battling internally. We have to battle ourselves as well. Because if we're not careful, we will lend or give our essence to the wrong thing. And when you do that, I'll say this: justice and truth, they aren't of the world, they aren't of man, they're of God. And when they are not on your side, that means that you are against them. And when you're against those things, then you're against God. And if you're against God, God is not for you, meaning God is not with you. And if you want to
Mhm.
be defeated, you just go and you choose the wrong battle. History has shown you that. People of color and their God have shown you that he is just. There's a saying, truth crushed to earth, robbed of its language, its knowledge of itself, its God, its religion, it would still rise again. And we need to be mindful of that. So when it comes down to racism, racism is an individual fight that the individual has to fight. It's like ministering to five people. There may be three to hear your message. The other two may hatred may be so strong, or they may be so racist, or whatever the case may be. It may take them a little bit longer to get the message. But we just need to be aware of that. I want to share two things with you all. One is about I brought a video, and it's really about community. There's a lot to this topic, and we really hadn't even cracked the surface of it. But I want to say this before we leave. We're talking about an election that ends after an election date. I don't care who go into office. Whatever they do is going to impact this country at large. And depending on the mindset of who gets there and who feel that they should or shouldn't be, then comes the decision of feeling, as some of you said, oppressed because the person you voted for didn't get in office. Or maybe your counterpart feeling oppressed because the person you did vote for got into office. But you're still back at a point now where it's time where we should be making progress. And if no progress is made because somehow in our ignorance we feel that this person that was elected because they were black owed the black community. And when they start to attempt to repay that, what do the white people say? They're just doing this for black people. Racism cripples. There's three evils that Dr. King spoke of. Racism was one of them. I don't care who ends up in power. If you are bound by racism or it plagues your authority or your decision making or your actions that you take, you're part of the problem. We're at a point now where we are solution oriented or we're trying to get there. My brother Edgar says, prejudice is only opposing something. Racism has the power to control. We as a people could never be racist. Ah, brother Egg, I agree with your first portion.
I was gonna
Prejudice,
say,
no,
oh, hold on now.
hold on. No, but that is correct. Prejudice is only opposed something. If I have a prejudice, I have a bias, that only means that I have an opinion of you before I encounter you. That's different than
Hmm.
racism. I could have a bias about gay people. I have a
Right.
prejudice about gay people. That's not the same as racism. Racism is just that, racism. So he's correct about that. But we as a people, we could actually, some of us are racist. When someone hates you and you fail to love them, you're just a hater as they are. So if someone introduced something to you called racism and you fall prey to it, that same thing that has crippled or infected them has also infected you. So that's not true. We can be racist. There are some people that feel that racism comes with power. Nobody has power over me except my God. We have to believe that. If we don't believe that, how can we ever expect to change? There's some things that we as a people, when we come and begin to rise together, we're going to change some things. We are going to change some things, not because we are racist, but because we have the potential. And if we organize the power, we can get it done. But let me share this video with you all.
How can all these poor immigrants come to this country and have all this capital? If they had that capital, why did they leave home? And if they didn't have the capital when they left home, how are they getting this capital here when they have no credit records and they have no paper trail and they have not? So who's capitalizing them? And I think if we begin to look at that question, we'll begin to get to the bottom of what's going on in the black community.
See, and you cannot, it's impossible in theory and practice to acquire wealth and power or to be economically competitive without a community. And right now in America, black folk do not have not one single solitary community in America. You cannot prosper, you cannot compete. It's going to be very difficult for black folk even to survive under the present circumstances because they don't have communities. All black folk got are neighborhoods. A neighborhood is like a bucket with a hole in it. Your history, your wealth, your power, your resources, your jobs, your tax base. And most of these neighborhoods have gotten so bad, so crime-ridden and run down and so dysfunctional that the neighbor has moved and all you got left is a hood. There's nothing left in them. We have a ranking order of acceptability in our society based on skin color, going white, yellow, brown, black. It's in a descending color order, going from the whitest to the darkest. And the wealth is also distributed along the same lines. The whitest at the top got the wealth, power, and resources going down. It trickles down, all the way down. The power and resources go, as they go up and down. The further you go away from the white, the thinner it becomes, the weaker it becomes. And black folk are not that silly. They can say, consequently, if I want something, I'm going to try to identify with anything as close to white as possible. And that's why you come up with this saying all the time about white ice is colder than black ice. They want to identify with it. But they never understand that rather than identifying with it, why don't you go acquire your own? Then your black ice will be just as cold as white ice. Black folk on an aggregated national disposable basis of collected income, they might be the ninth richest nation on earth. Right now, if I take all the black folks' money annually and aggregate it, they might be rich. They're richer than maybe Sweden, Canada, India, Pakistan, whole bunch of countries, Thailand, folks most all put together. But the difference is, what I keep trying to tell blacks, it doesn't make any difference because it's not aggregated. You aggregate something, you strengthen exponentially the power of it by multiplying the multiplying factor, by putting them together and then piling it up, making it stronger. And
okay, as you heard there, that narrative was a black man. That narrative was a brother. Now, the things he said didn't sound like a very confident brother. It didn't sound like he had hope in his brothers, because I'm sure he's seen some things that we've done. He's lived longer. Obviously, he has a little age on me. And he maybe have tried some things that didn't work out. But there's still hope. And as he gave the ingredients that are needed, he discussed economically the dollars or the finances there. He pointed out the fact that there's nothing holding the people that he was talking about back except for the people. So as we move forward, there's going to be some things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to hopefully, and I know my goal is to prove not only him, but some of you wrong, because I believe that we have the potential to change this world. And in order to change this world, we have to start with our homes, our houses, our communities. So the work is there. And if we continue it or even put our hands to it and continue it, it's like, you know, if you put your hand to the plow and you keep plowing, no concern for how much more is behind you, but with the willingness, no matter how much is ahead of you. Brother Brown made a comment earlier. He said that he's going to be on the battlefield. This is what he said. He said, "You will never see a day when I'm not on the battlefield." I like that. But I would like to remind my brother, there's some people that have died and been buried on the battlefield, and they're on the battlefield as well. It's not enough to be on the battlefield. We need to seize command and control of the battlefield. That's the objective. And what we're talking about now and what we're going to be addressing here as we get through this narrative, we want to understand the narrative, because when we understand it, then we can look at changing it. Brother Brown goes on to say that Trump has proven that he is a racist. He failed us all when he had the chance to serve. The supremacists and insurrection love him. Lied about the election. The supremacists and the insurrectionists love him. That's about like making a statement, the black people love Kamala. That's a lie, because I ain't in love with Kamala just because she's black. But there are some people. How much percentage of white people do you really think supremacists make? It's only a portion. That's like within our group, there are some people today that are so whatever to the point that they see us as being just outright ignorant. We can't change the way people think, but nor should we let that hinder us.
I completely agree with that. And
go ahead.
I think we need to stop spreading this negative information about one particular person. Like, I've never heard Donald Trump actually say anything racist. I'm not defending him, but what I am saying is it's misinformation. We have to stop doing this. Like, if you can point out where he said, I like these guys, versus him actually saying on video that he's all for going against the election in a peaceful manner, which he's not the first one to ever do this. So he's not the first one to ever go against the election. Let's just get that out the way. Democrats and Republicans do it every single election when they don't think it was fair. But the point being is that, like I've been saying this whole podcast, we got to stop with the racism. Just stop. Like, just stop completely. We need to focus on, picking the best person. If you don't like Trump, you don't even have to talk about him. There's plenty of other people on the ballot you can talk about. So instead of introducing negativity, let's just talk about positive. Let's talk about love. Love conquers all. Every single religion on earth says love conquers all in one way or another. People that are not religious understand that love conquers all. So let's just love one another. Whether you don't agree with someone or disagree with them, we can say, that, I might not agree with what they said, but, I love who they are as a human being. I love them because they're human. They have blood, red blood going through their veins just like me. So Dr. King, I keep bringing him up. He said, it shouldn't be about race anymore. Even though, let's just say he did say something directly racist. Let's just even go as far as say he said the N-word. Let's just say he did that, even though it's never been recorded that he did. We can still say, look, I don't like what you said. It has a negative connotation to it, but I still love you as a human being. And, Jesus said in the Bible, we should love one another. And he preached love. And, that's what I am doing on this podcast, let's just love one another. Let's in order for us to stop racism, we have to stop bringing it up. Several people have said this, but even several famous people have said this. And Morgan Freeman, Samuel Jackson, I can think of them very specifically. Morgan Freeman was being interviewed. He said, the white the right journalist, he asked him, he said, how do you think we can stop this racism amongst different people? And he just said, stop it. Just stop. If you just stop with the racism, positive or negative, and just say, I love you because you're a human, that would get a lot more done than just for talking about negative aspects of someone. So, let's just love one another. How about we start doing that? We may not agree with someone, but we can just still love them.
You make a good point, and let me share Brother Brown's comment, then I'll address both of you. Brother Brown says Trump was sued for racist discrimination against blacks and had to pay. Do you agree, Margie Taylor Greene, who loves him? And Brother Edgar says calling a racist racist is not being a racist. And that's true, Brother Edgar is correct. But when you think along the same lines as that racist, it's what's that saying? If you thinking and opposing someone because you want the position they're in and they're racist because they maintain it, if you end up in that position, then it's kind of makes sense that you would be considered racist when you get it. You have to guard against racism. That is particularly because it's been introduced. It's like a virus. Be careful that you don't catch it. Now, what I want to say is
this is true.
When you say about the love piece, that's good. That's for your neighbor, and Trump and Kamala is our neighbor. But when you look at a process such as this election process, I want to remind us that we had Dr. King, who went for nonviolence, and Malcolm X, who he wasn't violent, but he wasn't against it. And I'm saying that to say this: when a person is a liar, there's no peace with that lie. Call that person a liar. If he honestly feels Trump is a racist, this is where we as a people come together and we iron these things out. As you pointed out, you've never heard that. Then we realize the sensitivity of our comments, and either we can support them or we can't. But to make them is one thing. We just need to use wisdom in the comments that we make, because anything that can't be proven is just an accusation. And there are legal recourses that people that make accusations go through. To Trump's credit or anybody else's that don't want to make a public issue out of something, it probably was to Trump's advantage to settle that, because whether he won or lost, had it gone to court, he probably would have still lost or paid even more. There are a lot of people that do that, and some of them are guilty because they have the money they sell out of court. But those are issues that we're going to see, and when we encounter them, we have to have enough wisdom to look at them analytically and come up with what we see somewhat as a means of, do we believe that or do we accept that? But to present a different view really isn't a problem. If you think about Dr. King and Malcolm X, a lot of people thought that they were on two different roads, but no, they were on the same road. They had the same destination in mind. They just wasn't exactly walking together on that journey. But right. The same Jesus that people thought was so peaceful and just thought about love, it's the same Jesus that said, think not that I come to bring peace, but a sword. And that sword is truth. That sword is justice. And if we're not looking for that truth and that justice, as I said, we don't have God on our side. And if we are looking for that and we're searching for that, be it Trump, Kamala, or any of us, if we oppose that, I pray that we will oppose each other. Because if a man hadn't found something for which he's willing to die, he isn't fit to live. Brother Gregory, I'm going to see if you have any additional comments, and I'm going to leave you all with this song by my lovely wife.
Oh no, we had a great show.
Okay, then I'll share this song with you all. You all have said it on several occasions.
My Father glorified, that he bear much fruit, so shall he be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue in my love, in my love. Oh yeah, continue in my love, in my love. Oh, herein is my Father glorified, that he bear much fruit, so shall he be my disciple.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed that and was blessed by it. Brother Gregory, we're going to allow you your Emmy. I'll give mine, and we're going to go ahead and close out.
Emmy moment. Oh yes, when Mr. Edgar Eason said, calling a racist racist is not being racist. That had me laughing because he's not wrong. He's not wrong. It had me laughing. Calling a racist is not racist. I completely agree with that. Um, but at the same time, I think if we start to love one another more, we'll get a lot more done versus, you know, fighting each other. We'll get a lot more done.
Right. That was one of the things that Dr. King had stated. He said that only love can overcome hate. So when you look at those three evils, racism, militarism, and poverty, they all kind of feed each other. But when we can love one another, we stand a possibility of overcoming it. My brother Edgar says 2016, Hillary Clinton got the majority vote, yet Trump became president. What does that say about your vote? Okay, that's a whole nother show. Listen, how all that happened somewhere in there. Well, anyway, that's another program altogether. But I want to thank you all for joining me. I do hope you all have been blessed. I do encourage you to come back next Friday at 8 p.m. when we will start another show, and the topic will be the same because we really hadn't even got into it at this point. But before that, I'd like to invite you all Wednesdays at 8 p.m. We do Rise to Prosperity. It's a show of education, motivation, and inspiration. The host is Lady Antoinette Eatman, and I am her co-host. So I'd like to ask you all to join us for that. And just wanted to share this with you also. Hopefully it'll stay with you, and maybe, just maybe, you all might actually see you all.
There is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism.
Tonight, for one, will join in with anyone. Don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth.
Greetings, I am Jamie Eaton. Join me Fridays at 8 p.m. for On the Rise movement.
As you all notice, that didn't say On the Rise movement. It said the strategy room. That's something else in my spirit to do, but it won't be something I can do alone. So there's plenty of things to be done here. We can and will make a difference. Peace and blessings be unto you all. Until